So I was reading David Icke, and the thing is, welcome to Fireside Chats with Matt. With Matt's. So the thing is, I was reading some David Icke, and it was very nice, but because I discovered, I looked in my Kindle library, which was from years ago. It's from an old Amazon account, and I had a David Icke book in there, at least one. I think I might have like two in there, maybe more. But it was a it's the book called like Infinite Love is the Only Thing That Is Real, All Else Is an Illusion, or something like that. And you might be like, whoa, what the fuck title is that for any book? What kind of book is that? It's like, well, it's mostly one might call like a conspiracy book, or I'd say kind of a truthery kind of book, just telling you all sorts of stuff. And the thing is, David Icke is very encyclopedic. And the thing about his book titles actually is that not only are they sometimes hilariously long, like similar to like a really long song title, like those old, not old, but back when I was a teenager, like those emo song titles, like I gave you my love, you gave me your bullets, or something, or that might be an album title by like My Chemical Romance. That sounds kind of like Bullet for My Valentine, or I don't know. But then apparently there are like song titles by the band Nile, like a death metal band, where it's like just like 80 words long. It's just insanity. So, but anyway, some of David Icke's book titles are hilariously long. But the one book that I've read in full by him, actually, I'll tell you that, is oh, they don't have his books listed here. That'd be a long fucking list. Well, maybe at the end they have a little advertisement section for his books. I read the Remember Who You Are, Where You Came From, whatever book, which was good. But I think it seems like he's sort of switched publishers recently. His old books had very like sort of interestingly colorful, like sort of like paintings or drawings on the cover, but nowadays it's been more just like blocky text and like a simple sort of photograph. One photograph, interestingly enough, being like the what looks like an explosion in a certain American tragedy that it seems like there may be some kind of idea of misinformation about. But that one, I didn't know what the cover was, but I asked my uncle to get it for me. I didn't even know the book was going to be about 7-Eleven, but my uncle, he sent it in for me, but then I realized what the hesitation in his voice might have been, because I said like, oh, David Icke, could you get like the newest book by David Icke? The book cover is probably going to be like some kind of illustration or something. And I think I was saying that thinking that the book cover for Everything You Need to Know But Have Never Been Told was some kind of like one-off or something, like, or some kind of like fluke, and he was going to have the, like, that was just sort of a different style, but it didn't mean it was the end of the old book cover styles. But like maybe that was more of a greatest hits kind of book, and then now we were going to return to more of his regular book format in many ways. But no, it retained this format. But he's been having very interesting titles recently, like, and from like the sense of like truther, where often enough things in society, like the names for them have so many like interesting connections to what seems to have happened with them that it seems like it might be kind of biblical. Because, in the book of Genesis, they make a big fucking deal about the names of each person being, like, each person is born, and then their name is, like, based on, like, something about them, or their name is based on, like, circumstances of their birth, or, like, essentially, like, they're not just, like, giving a name to them, like, sort of what sounds nice or something, like, or whatever, however you might pick a name, but they're, like, giving a name to them in a way where it's, like, the name directly seems to connect to like circumstances in the world. And in a similar way, it seems like names, I have posts about this on the Matt Thoughts websites. I think like I might have videos about this, multiple ones, audio, but like name stuff. It's like Donald Trump. Why would his last name, like, really, in real life, if this weren't just like some kind of literary story or something where the characters are like a Dickensian thing where the characters are named in really obvious ways relating to the story and stuff, like really on the nose ways, like for example, Don Draper. It's like he's a draper. He drapes, like, it's a cool sounding name anyway. It has like a very Batmanish sound to it, Don Draper, but it also like an elegant sound, but like it sounds like Draper, like it sounds drapery. It sounds like it's very fine clothing or something. And also he started in his advertising career, slight spoiler, but I think they revealed this early on. He started I won't spoil too much of it. I'll just say he started his advertising, in some sense, advertising for like fur coats. Or fur coats were part of it. So Don Draper started in fur coats. I mean, come on. So it's like Donald Trump, Trump card. He's famous for casinos. Donald Trump, the meaning of Trump card, like, is something that you might unexpectedly play, or something that you play that defeats what would otherwise be like a really good hand, maybe. He comes into the political system and upsets everything and wins. Like, he really goes at it. Like, I don't know if he ran before, but like this was his big run in 2016, and he's the Trump card to the establishment. I mean, and then Mike Pence, his name is Pence, and he's the running mate to the big money man. Donald Trump, dollar signs, Trump card, casino. Casino relates to money linguistically, like, or casino has money connotations, and so Trump, as in Trump card, would have money connotations. And then, of course, his running mate, his last name is literally the name for essentially like a lesser amount of money, like pence. Like pence is in change, I think. It's more of a British like change, pounds and pence. And so, of course, the lackey of the big Trump money casino man, his last name is fucking like essentially change, like, I mean, well, that's a sort of funny Obama joke, but his last name is essentially like coins, like Mike Pence, Mike Coins, and Donald Trump card, casino dollar bills, Bill. I mean, come the fucking on. But I mean, this name thing, I think that's might be Freudian, but this name thing really extends all over the place. Like, I mean, like, for example, Mayor Pete, the famously gay, or he famously identifies as gay, mayor of, like, a certain city in America, mayor of Indiana, or, I don't know. He's a mayor, but he became a senator, maybe, or maybe he was never a senator, but, like, he had a really big run for the government, and like famously ran with part of his identity, like famously being like he's the gay candidate, and his last name literally starts with the letters Butt. Like the gay candidate, his last name literally starts with the word butt, and not only that, but the rest of it is like very interestingly spelled, and like it's like you don't quite know how to pronounce it if you haven't heard it said in the correct way, I suppose, and followed after that, like, Buttigieg, and they didn't pronounce it but, because maybe that would have been a little too on the nose for this one, but they pronounced it Buttigieg, and it's like but, and Jedge sort of sounds like judge, so it's like butt judge, and he's the famously gay candidate, like, but even if you don't connect with the judge part of it, still, like, Mayor Butt is the first part of his last name is literally Butt, and he's the famously gay candidate for like presidency, and like basically the most famous for being gay candidate, or for identifying as it candidate. And I don't mean of that year. I mean like he, as far as my like cultural sort of connotations lie, it seems to me like he's the most famously gay candidate of all time. Like maybe, I don't know, maybe there was someone in the past who it was controversial because he identified as gay or said that he did or whatever, but it seems like Pete Buttigieg is like maybe of the entire history of American politics or whatever, quote unquote, Pete Buttigieg is like the most famously ran as being gay as a positive thing candidate of all time, and his last name starts with Butt. I mean, come on, guys. Like, I'll rattle off more of these. Look into the there's a there was an event that was talked about in a nightclub, and it had some people. They said they were injured, and there was one person that they said he was injured, and people maybe questioned the validity of some of the stuff that they were presenting about him. But in any case, the nightclub in question was a gay nightclub, and he was presented as somebody who could have died in that gay nightclub. And I think he was presented as, they probably didn't say it specifically, but I think he was presented as someone who like seemed like a guy who identified as gay who was going to this gay nightclub, and his last name was Colon, like colon, like that's the term for like a butthole, or like the colon tract, like the tract of like an anus. And this guy was famous for going to a gay nightclub, and his first name was Angel. Like Angel, people popularly think of angels as being like, you know, when you die, you might become an angel or something. Or like, I think there's some sense of that, even though it, like that's supposedly biblically like horribly inaccurate. But like angels are just something else, you know. But in like a popular conception, like when you like an angel gets its wings or something, like there's some kind of promotion program going on here or there or something program. When you die, it might be seen in some kind of cultural context or you know, it might be seen that this person would be referred to then as an angel. Like you died and you became an angel. You went to heaven and you became an angel in heaven or something. And so he's famous for being the guy who was presented as could have very easily died in this situation. And his first name is Angel. And he's famous because that happened in well, part of the story anyway, of the fame of it all, is that happened in a gay nightclub, and it seemed like he was presented as identifying as gay as well. And his name is Angel Colon, and he's a guy who was very gay, was very much all over the story, and he was presented as he could have died, and his name was Angel. And his name is Angel Colon. I mean, come on, guys, give me another fucking name. Like, throw some names at me. I'm like, seriously, these aren't just like random like things. These are like direct parts of the cultural narratives about these things. But anyway, since like sort of ascertaining that there was a lot of this sort of name gaming going on, and like not only did it happen in like the good book, like the sort of blueprint for like theological thought and stuff, like not only did it seem like names were very important and had some kind of like almost astral or celestial or religious significance in how someone's life was going to play out, or like who someone was, their name was very much connected with that. And there's all sorts of stuff talking about like what your name is, like then you do the numerology, and and when you were born and stuff, and that all supposedly comes together to tell you how your life is going to turn out and stuff. I'm not necessarily saying yay or nay to any of this stuff at all, like any of these elements, but I am saying there's all this stuff about names, and then there are all these celebrities, and really there are so many of them whom you can just point to, and even like 2-packs of celebrities, like literally, like Donald Trump and Mike Pence literally came together to form a combo that was meaningful between them, not just on their own individually, but between them, it was their names were meaningful to the narrative of the cultural arc. And it's not just like the few names I've mentioned, and I've mentioned like 4 pretty good examples, like 4 pretty recent examples, not even like reaching back into history to like look at some names and stuff. And it's probably easier to find recent examples because you have a better idea of like the cultural context that's surrounding these people. So whether it be the connotations of certain words over time, or this thing or that thing or whatever else it is, you probably have a better idea now of all of the like really strange connections that someone's name seems to indeed have, whatever its genesis was, with how their life has turned out and stuff. Like it's incredible. And I will give you another example, actually. A lot of people in prison were named Chris for some reason. I don't know if that was just a me thing. Like that's less direct, because with the like political figures and cultural touchstones and stuff that I've pointed to thus far, I pointed to direct things that like this is how it seems that their name is connected with things. So that was direct evidence. So like it was like them and their story and their name going together just eerily well. But with the people in prison, it could just be a case of I was with a handful of people in each prison that I was in, and some names happen to appear more than others. But interestingly enough, still, I saw like it seemed like Chris was the most common first name in prison, and that's interesting because Christopher, Christ. I mean that's very interesting. Nevertheless, it did seem like Chris was the most common name. Matt was not that uncommon. I literally was a bunkmate with a Matt. I was a bunkmate with two different Matts, actually, one in each place, believe it or not. So, literally, I think or at least I was bunked, like, next to the bunk of one of the Matts, and then I was literally the bunkmate of the other Matt, and I'm Matt. So it's like, Matt is somewhat of a common name in jail as well, unfortunately, but nevertheless. And, I mean, if you look into my poetry and stuff, like, I literally have songs where the recording is dated. Like, it's from 2016. That's the date of the recording. And I have documents all over the computer and, like, probably things posted online and stuff where it's dated, and it's songs about, like, me, like, talking to someone, like, in a prison visitation thing. That song is particularly Doomsday, named after the MF Doom song Doomsday, from which I had the beat. That's why I'm not posting that song here. But nevertheless, so, like, I don't think I can, like, I think it would be, like, you can't post someone else's beat on YouTube, but, nevertheless, like, I could play you the song in person, maybe. I have the lyrics down anyway, and the lyrics are about being in prison, and I was writing it as, like, a metaphor. Like, when I was writing it, it was as a metaphor, and I had, I went to college, like, I had a very, very sort of more middle-classy kind of trajectory in my life, and not a prison kind of trajectory, but I wrote this song, like, using prison as a metaphor, and like I'm in prison, like talking, or the speaker is in prison anyway, but it's sort of like a speaker similar to me because I was sort of writing about some like relationshipy kind of feelings and stuff, but I was writing about this, and then I ended up going to prison, and it's like I come out and it's like, well, yeah, I had the song about being in jail, here I was in jail doing my little visitations and stuff, but they're like that might seem like sort of a weak example because prison is sort of a fairly common sort of like trope, like a common kind of setting and sort of allegorical thing, or just sort of a metaphorical thing, like, oh, you're in jail, like, what a metaphor for a poem, but, seeing all these name things in society, and seeing, like, names seem to pop up even for me as well, and I also literally in college, before any idea of prison or anything like that, by the way, it was for speech crimes. It wasn't anything like, as I will quote Matt Walsh on this, actually. I might have the episode like referred to somewhere, and I might be able to go find it, but Matt Walsh literally had an episode where he slipped. It was a bit of a Freudian or not, but it was a bit of a slip. Like, it seemed like he didn't quite mean to say what he said, but in one of the Matt Walsh episodes, he literally, he was talking about somebody who, like, had threatened somebody, like, given somebody death threats, and then, or something like that, and then later on, in reference to that, he said something like, and then, people might even be arrested for actual crimes. So it's like, that's what I was arrested for, something that Matt Walsh, in his own fucking words, referred to as separate from the idea of actual crimes, or something like that. I mean, so, that's what I went to jail for, but nevertheless, it did happen, and so it's like, be careful how you write about yourself in poetry, I guess. But in any case, but in college, I wrote a poem before any of that stuff any thought of that happening, whatever. I wrote a poem about Collins, and it was particularly called like Colin or Collins. And like throughout my life, at least in two cases in particular, but it seemed like even a little more than that, like, because there were other people whom I like didn't particularly like. I don't know, but I wrote a poem about how like people named Colin essentially were like my adversaries, like just. And of course, you could look at that in 1,000 ways and say, oh, that's like a race poem. People named Colin. Oh, what are you talking about? But because I'm not saying that. Because Colin is a famously, like, ethnic name or something, but it might be ethnically white, but, no, I'm not saying that, but, like, I'm saying, like, like, it is, like, a group of people by their name, and you're writing a poem about being, like, literally, like, you use, like, combat, like, Revolutionary War type combat or something, like as a metaphor, like the Collins are coming in, one if by land, two Collins if by sea, or not quite, not that, but something like that. I literally wrote a poem about like Collins seemingly like being antagonistic towards me, and like my teacher, like professor, asked me about it in class or something, and I said something like, I've only known a few Collins in my life, but they've all been a disaster. Like that, I said something like that, and she's like, you should start the poem with that. And so like I did a revision of the poem like for a later project or something, or it's in some way I think the poem was revised, and I did make that the first couple of lines, like I've only known a few Collins in my life, but they've all been a disaster or something like that. But it's always been a disaster or something like that. And anyway, so like even looking back through my own life, it seems like there have been places where like naming has had a significance beyond just like a rose by any other name is still a rose kind of thing. It seems like the name, even if it just some like the name reflects what happens or something, it seems to reflect it, like something was named and then something happens and it reflects what happens after the thing was named. Like it seems to have some kind of forelation to it in some sort of weird or spiritual mystical way. But anyway, with all the name stuff, David Icke has had some really interesting names to his books recently. Like, and they've been similar to like the style of the book covers, and they're not all just like black with text. Most of them actually have pictures these days, but like similar to the style being like very just dramatic and in your face. The book titles have been sort of that way too, like Everything You Need to Know But Have Never Been Told, or The Answer, or The Trap, or The Dream, or one of them was Perceptions of a Renegade Mind. I think that was probably not the best title because that made it more about him, and so I think maybe people, or at least I felt like a little less of a connection to it. It felt like more of like, oh, this is a book about like just David Icke telling you what he thinks rather than like the book itself is presented as the answer. It's like, oh no, these are just perceptions of our renegade mind. But this book, no, this book isn't just perceptions of a renegade mind. This is the something. And what is it the? It's the answer. And in reading a little of a Rumi quote that he quotes near the beginning about like, I'll read you the first quote and then the second. Why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open? And I had read that quote and I didn't read that much further or any further. And I was thinking about it, or maybe I read the next one, but it's the next one after that that connects with it. But I was thinking, and I was like, I literally was thinking something along the lines of like, I sort of get the sense of what Rumi's saying there, but I'd also be interested to see, like, it would be nice if Rumi says what is the way out? If again, the door is so wide open to the prison that you're staying inside there, according to Rumi here. But, okay. Here was his answer, though. I read it later, and it's like, oh, well, he doesn't say it quite, like, it seems like this is just a collection of random quotes. Maybe it's like a specific set of, like, a specifically ordered set of, like, sutras from one of his books or something. But it seems to me like it's just sort of a grab bag of quotes, the way Icke presents it here. But this is, like, before the text of Icke's book. But here is his key. Take someone who doesn't keep score, who's not looking to be richer or afraid of losing, who has not the slightest interest even in his own personality. He's free. And it was like, oh, wow, well, why are you still in prison when the door is so wide open? And then there's a quote talking about the man who is free. And it's like, okay, well, this at least seems to be one answer or one set of things that Rumi is pointing towards, saying, like, these are ways to be free or something. And I was thinking of it, and I was like, you know what? I think what has been imprisoning me the most recently has been the idea of enlightenment. But, you know what it is? I think as someone else had said something in a metaphor, they were like, Adyashanti said something about another person saying, like, maybe Ramana Maharshi in India, he was saying, like, the impediments are thorns and spiritual practices are like thorns. Or maybe it was Nisargadatta Maharaj, and I think it might have been him or whatever. So Nisargadatta Maharaj, or whomever it was quoted as saying, like, spiritual practices are like thorns used to take out other thorns. And Adyashanti says, I think this is in The Way of Liberation, Adyashanti says this or something about that general idea. He's like, I always like that image. And it's like, okay, well, I like Adyashanti, and, that sounds interesting. And so, but related to that kind of image, I thought, oh, enlightenment, the idea of enlightenment is like a golden hook. And somehow hooking yourself to the idea of enlightenment allows all the other hooks to be dragged out of you. And now it's like there's just no other illusion, but the thing is, there's still a big golden hook that you're attached to. And that's the final golden hook that you have to let free of it, or that you have to let free from yourself. It let free.